Yes, I was one of the early members of, not one of the sisters that started it, but one of the early designers in 4W Circles. And it was a collective of different businesses that sold their own goods and created their own goods. 2 or 3 times a year, we would have fashion shows. I did a show twice a year. So I'm trying to keep that whole spirit of collectivity and togetherness with us as a group. About 9 years ago, people kept asking me, "When are you going to do another show, Brenda?" And I said, "Why are we waiting for 1 or 2 shows? Why don't we create something that at least once a month we as artists can get together and show and sell our goods?" So I created the Diaspora Arts Collective. We've been 9 years going. Yesterday we had our second showing at the historic Lafayette Avenue Church here in Brooklyn on Lafayette Avenue, and we had over 15 artists who showed their wares there. We always have something called edutainment, which we try to bring to our customers. Our customers come to us and give us so much when they help us economically, spiritually, and creatively. And we wanted to give them something back. So we have a segment in the whole process of selling that's called edutainment. Yesterday we had Vienna Carroll giving us stories of women. I call her the singing storyteller. She did a wonderful day of telling us about our past singers. Big Mama Thornton was who she kind of spoke about a lot and told her story. And then at each of our markets, we always do a little mini fashion show where we combine all the goods from each of the designers to do one fashion show. So that was yesterday, March 23rd. A little history about the Lafayette Avenue Presbyterian Church. It was created over 160 years ago by abolitionists, and it's one of the stops on the Underground Railroad. The site is still there. From time to time during our Juneteenth celebration, we do tours there when we're able to go down in that space where our ancestors were. It is such a wonderful feeling. You understand all the stuff that they went through for us. You can't help but come out of there being thankful, being grateful to the people that kept that space and kept their silence and kept their safety for all the people, the slaves, the abolitionists, the people that work to keep them safe so that we could be here. We're in a special space. It's like we're standing on their shoulders. The Lafayette Avenue Presbyterian Church is located at 85 South Oxford Street and here in Brooklyn, and that's between Fulton and Lafayette Avenue. I see us being there. We will be back there next month, April the 13th, and I think we found a home for that time. So we are so honored to be there, and it's a special place for me because it was right down the street from where my store used to be, and it's my neighborhood, and I love that we're back there. The collective is the way that I feel we should go as business owners, that we get together. Instead of us standing alone, you're always stronger in numbers. Yes. My history in this neighborhood started with, I had my own business in my home. I lived on Clinton Avenue, and I would have sales in my home 2 or 3 times a month. It's so funny that one day one of the owners, the sisters that formed 4W Circle, Selma Jackson, was a friend of my neighbor's across the hall. I had closed my home at that time for business, and she came over and says, "I have a friend who would still like to come over. Do you mind if she could come?" I said, "Yes, have her come." Selma and I sat down and talked, and she says, "I detect a southern accent." I said, "Yes, I'm from Georgia." She says, "Oh, I have people from Georgia too." I said, "Oh, really?" She says, "What part?" I said, "Augusta, Georgia." She says, "My aunt lives there." I said, "What's your aunt's name?" Her aunt ended up being married to my uncle. So I had found a relative and a kindred spirit. And she became a customer of mine. And then later, when she and her other 3 partners opened 4W, they asked me to put my clothing there on a consignment. And I was there for a whole year on a consignment. And after I saw what they were doing, I liked this whole idea. I've always been a team person. I like working with other people, not just being by myself. It comes from my years of playing basketball in high school and college. And so I came in that second year in 4W started in 1991. And it's at 704. It was at 704 Fulton Street, which is still now a collective. It's a natural hair collective still there. So that whole spirit is still going on. And I came in there and immediately felt at home. I felt like it's a place I wanted to be. And I stayed there for 12 years, very, very happily. We had so many people that came through 4W. They went on to their own spaces. You know, some left town. During the time that I was there, we have a space in the back of the store right on Hanson Place. I think it's 81 Hanson Place, right in the back of where the main building, the main structure was. And we would rent it out. We rented it out first to a sister named Ona. She had a company called Locksmiths, and she left. And so we wanted to have another hair salon there. And Brother Glenn Etienne came in with his deluxe natural hair salon. And he now has been there for the past, I guess, about 10 years now, maybe 8 or 10 years now. But his is a collective too, because he has people, hair designers coming in and out. So that idea of collectivity is still flowing. After I left 4W, I opened up my own brand store. It was almost not directly across the street, but diagonal. I was so happy to stay in the neighborhood that I had helped to cultivate the business and stuff there. And I opened up Tribal Truths Collection at 117 South Oxford. So it seems like I'm staying in this neighborhood, and I still keep coming back. So I see us, even in my small store that I had there, I too had formed a collective. I had people coming into the store on a consignment basis. I would do fashion shows where I would have designers, and the fashion shows were done at the Lafayette Avenue Presbyterian Church. So it's so funny that now we're making that circle, and I just love it that we are seeing our past, our present, and our future all in the same place. I love the store that I had, but 2 or 3 things happened. One, I had outgrown the store. It was a small store, and I look at it as I pass through it now and wonder, how did I get all that stuff in there? The other thing that happened with me and other businesses was gentrification. It was good and bad for the neighborhood. At one time, we had so many black-owned businesses in this Fort Greene area along Fulton Street that in 1995, Cranes did a magazine article on us at that time period. There were more black-owned businesses in the corridor, in that short corridor, than anywhere in the country. We had actually named the area Bogolan. Bogolan is a word that comes from the Bogolofini language from Mali that means mud cloth. And that's that black and white pattern fabrics that you see. Now they do it in all colors. We even had flags up where now we have the Merchants Association flags up now, but we had our Bogolan flags. And that's a history that needs to be written too. This was started by husband and wife, Ebone and Bilal Muhammad, who is now deceased. At least the brother is. The sister is still here. But we had gathered such a strong piece over there. We had Eric Blackwell with a paper, a local newspaper called the Fort Greene News. I mean, so much was going on. It was like a world within itself. The powers that be looked over there and saw that we had created African world over there, our world, the way we do in our market. We had businesses from retail to restaurant, real estate, hair salons, nail salons. The space that my store was in was a nail salon run by a sister named Miss Maxine. And so and after a minute or so, they looked up and saw those black businesses. It started being dismantled. And they dismantled it by raising rents. Most of the buildings were owned by people of other persuasions. The way you get people out, raise that rent. It not only affects the businesses, it affects the places that people live in because we can no longer afford to stay there. Not just us as black people, just average people can't stay there. A lot of people moved out from the area. And as we see now, there's only maybe 3 or 4 businesses that are still there. Mushoot is hanging on. Mike's from Brooklyn Moon is still there. The hair salons and the hair places, beauty places are going to always survive because you know we got to always look good, and that is one of our strengths. Looking good is a business for us, and that's good. It's one of the few businesses that we can outright own, but they too are struggling with rents. So, and it's very few black owners that have the retail spaces there. So that's the problem that's happening with us now. We have to go and pioneer other areas. I and others of us are looking in other areas that are not so populated or that's not so popular now, because where the energy goes, what we create is not just goods and services. We create energy. Energy is what we're selling. I don't sell clothes. I sell clothes, but I also sell that energy that goes into it too. This past month, March, I was very honored, very humbly honored to be on the cover of a local newspaper, Our Times Press, which is one of our prestigious papers that just monitors us and keeps us in the flow of what's happening in our neighborhood. This was in tribute to International Women's History Month. And in it, I told the story of my inspiration from what I do. I come from Georgia, and I grew up at a time when we didn't have all the fancy stores to buy all these things, and our parents and stuff would make our clothes. My grandmother, Katie Merriweather, would make me little flannel slips and make little tops and bottoms for us. And every garment that she would make for me, she'd stick a little bead in it or a little pack of herbs or something in it. And I asked her, what are those for? She says, these are for your protection. These are for your blessings. And so when I first started my collection, I had a label. And then I thought about, at that time, everybody was wearing labels. That was during the time in the 80s when people would even wear their labels on the outside. They keep their tags on their clothes and stuff. And we were so oriented towards, who are you wearing? And most of us were wearing Gucci and Fatucci and all those names. And I said, I'm sick of this label mess. I want to create a line that people can visibly know that the line is one of us. And I wanted to have a special piece on it. So I just started, because I had kept up with my own clothing, putting these things that I eventually knew were talismans. Talismans are blessings that we stick on our clothes. Or women used to stick them in their bras, for protection and also for love. It was like a way of saying that God has given us this to us, and we're showing who we are, and this is our blessing. So I started doing them for my own personal clothes, and people kept asking me, what is that? So I said, this might be a nice thing to use as a label. And that caught on. I've been doing this over 20-something years now. So I know people will tell me, I know that's your garment because I saw something hanging from it. And so that's a nice thing to really be thought about just like that people will know you just from the visibility of your garment. Now I don't have the store on South Oxford now. But I haven't stopped doing business. In fact, I'm probably doing more business now than I did when I had my store, because I concentrated mostly on the store. Now, without the actual physical building, I can go out and do more things in other places. I can travel more. I still work from my home. I have a showroom studio. Several times a month, I'll invite people in for sales. I have part of it set up like a little showroom. And I have other guest artists come in with me, too. Right now, I'm sharing space. I'm with a company called Ashanti Fields that does a men's and jewelry line. And so we have sales from time to time. This has also allowed me to travel. Next month, I'll be going to Philadelphia to do a show so I can get out more. Has not stopped business. It's just changed, and you can do business wherever you are. I started off in my home. I am blessed to be able to make that circle and be back. If the future sees us having a store, I would love to have one with at least 5 or 6 other people. Based on that 4W concept of collectivity, but not only taking it a step further, and that's what we're using this market, our Diaspora Arts Collective, to do, is to work on not just being collective by being in one space together, but being cooperative. This is called the cooperative collective, cooperating with each other to make one space, not one person owning it, all of us owning it. This is how we grow as a people. This is how we grow as groups, and this is growth for us individually.